Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Coffee with the Critters, where we live stream every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, unless otherwise noted. We are, for those that may be new, we are an international educational center where we live stream across the world, and our mission is to empower animals and the people that care for them. Like I said, we live stream every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, unless otherwise noted. Please take a look at the next 2 weeks. I'm definitely traveling, and next week's Coffee with the Critters will be coming from Chicago, where I will either be live streaming Saturday night or Sunday morning, pending on my travel schedule. Whether I head back after my presentation next Saturday, we'll be at St. Xavier University in Chicago, Illinois, where I will be giving a 4-hour presentation on animal behavior and training using the science of behavior. And that will be for Dr. Jason Crean's workshop, or his course, Zoo Biology and Genetics. And then the following Sunday, I will be in Connecticut presenting at the Feather Fest. So pending on that schedule, I will either be live streaming that Saturday night after my presentation with a few guests, or Sunday morning. I won't know, so you can find out that schedule on let me show you. Okay. You can find our schedule on our Facebook page. Hey, Judy. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. On our Facebook page, you can take a look at the events, and you can see our upcoming workshops that we have, events where I'll be speaking, what have you. Good morning, Susie. I see you just got back from Key West. Charisse, I'll see you in June. Wendy, Charlene, good morning, everybody. So for those of you that may be new, my name's Laura Joseph. I'm owner of the Animal Behavior Center. We are an international educational center where we teach people across the world how to empower animals and the people that care for them. We do that through our live streaming services. And after this morning's episode, I will show you how you can find out more about our services. And the importance in our services is not necessarily attending the live streams. It is being available to watch the replays. Most of the people watch the replays. And the great thing about the replays is people continue to engage. I can tell you more about that at the end of today's episode. So something else you might want to pay attention to, our newsletter. We send out a newsletter every couple of weeks. I'm working on another one right now. You can join our email newsletter here on our Facebook page, or you can go to our website, which is theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. You can also contact me directly. I answer each and every email. We have several emails that come through, and you can email me at Laura, Lara, at theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. So here's our website, which shows all of our workshops, our upcoming schedule, the services that we offer. So you can find that at theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. The program I'm using is just revamped. So if I'm stuttering and stumbling, please bear with me. Good morning, everybody. So last week we had an episode with the two dog trainers, Jim Gillis from the UK and Mike Shikashio. Both trainers focus on dog behavior and training, and we talked about the Muzzle Up project. That was a great episode. In that episode wasn't just about dogs. So I integrated the work we can do with numerous different species. So a lot of the work I do is through teaching people how to use applied behavior analysis with animals. And applied behavior analysis is using B.F. Skinner's laws of behavior. and it applies to absolutely everything. If it's moving, breathing, living, applied behavior analysis works. It's just if we have the tools and the education we need to understand how that works. So today's episode is a Q&A, but I want to revamp some of the things we discussed this past week in our level 1, level 2 memberships in our projects. So our level 1 membership is for people wanting to know how to do better through understanding behavior with companion animals. Level 2 is for people who are thinking about getting in the field of animal behavior, but definitely not limited. We have a couple different board certified behavior analysts in there. We have different scientists in there. We have professional trainers in there, and we have people who just want to do better with the animals in their care. I want my phone. So that is in our level 2, where we dive deep and we have a lot of live stream interviews. We had the awesome Samantha Sarin on there. I believe it was 2 weeks ago, talking about digging deeper into no reward markers. We have Jim Gillis coming up in level 1 and in level 2. Level 2 will be he's going to be talking about aggression cases. And then we have our projects, which are species specific. So good morning, everybody. Good morning, Michelle from Puerto Rico. So today's episode is going to be a Q&A. Each week I try to either have a live stream with a professional in the field, or I have the behavior spotlight, which is usually bringing on guests from our level 1, level 2, or our projects to talk about different topics. I'll have a Q&A. Lately, it's been our Coffee with the Critters has been very heavy on interviewing different people. Interesting. Just got a pretty cool text. So you're going to be seeing a lot of changes here at the Animal Behavior Center, and we're slowly going to be announcing it. They are major changes, and one thing is, if you can see our logo up in the corner of your screen, pay attention, because what you're going to see, I'm going to start dropping little hints at changes that are happening. March is going to be full of planning. April is going to be full of, what do I want to say? How much do I want to say, Karen? April is going to be full of me being on site, overseeing things. In May, we are probably going to be making major announcements. So you're going to see a change, a minor change in our logo. That will be a big hint. Our logo is being revamped probably as we speak. So today's episode, Coffee with the Critters, is a Q&A where I can invite you on if you'd like to come on screen with me. Most people at this time on a Sunday morning are either in church or laying in bed watching Coffee with Critters. So we have a lot of things coming up. Very exciting. All the volunteers here know about it. We're all really excited, and we're just patiently waiting. So if you'd like to come on screen with me, you're more than welcome. Just send me a private chat. I can send you a link. You can join me here this morning. So let's take your questions, and I will do my best to answer them. If for some reason I cannot answer you right away, I will continue to post links and answer after the Q&A is over. I do have some photos to show you, and I do have some videos to show you, which I'm going to, the videos are pretty cool, and this is working with several different species, how applied behavior analysis works on numerous different, well, every species, including ourselves. A lot of people that come to the Animal Behavior Center who come to take a tour, or come to do, let's say, a lemur experience, a lemur encounter, a lot of times we hear them say, this place is so peaceful. It's primarily how we're run by volunteers, and a lot of our volunteers have been with us 7 years, 4 years, 2 years. Erica's coming up on 1 year this month. because we use applied behavior analysis with each other. We know how it works. People and animals move towards things that brings desirable consequences and away from things that don't. We all do. And we even move towards things that we may not necessarily want, but we do that to escape, avoid a consequence. And that is the definition of negative reinforcement, which in our level 1, we're doing exercises right now on understanding the difference between positive and negative reinforcement and positive and negative punishment. Those are important to understand. A lot of times we're doing different things and we don't even know what they're called. But in applied behavior analysis, there are terms and definitions to these things. So an example of a negative reinforcer. We try our hardest to stay away from negative reinforcement. And the easiest way to understand negative reinforcement, and it's things you move towards to escape, avoid a consequence. We're talking about this right now in level 1 and giving different examples. And after this exercise, I had said, think about the things you do in your life. Every time you stand up to do something, ask yourself, why am I doing this? And that answer will be the reinforcer. So a lot of times we stand up. Do we want to stand up from the couch in the middle of March when it's 20 degrees and we're snuggled warm underneath our blankets? Do we want to stand up and remove that blanket and walk to the refrigerator? Not necessarily, but we do it to escape, avoid a consequence. We're moving towards the refrigerator to attain food, to escape, avoid hunger, the feeling of hunger. Make sense? So anybody have questions? I'm here to address them before I start showing photos and videos. Let's see, Adrian, who messaged me last night, are we having coffee with the critters this morning? Yes. And Coffee with the Critters is getting ready to turn 5 years old in 2 weeks, I believe on March 13th. Not a question, but an observation based on recent occurrence. Know what your bird or any animal looks like. Okay, let me just finish reading. Behavior. Playing, talking, interaction. Last week, Casper was off, just not acting right. So, Adrian, when you say know what your bird looks like, whatever your bird or animal looks like, that is behavior. You're reading behavior. And in applied behavior analysis is using observable and measurable behavior. So if we see an animal doing something once, this is what you do. You're collecting data. The animal does something once, the animal does something twice, the animal does something a third time. If that behavior is is maintaining or increasing, that behavior is being reinforced. And all animals give behavior for a reason. No behavior is for no reason, and no behavior is functionless. Behavior serves a purpose for that animal. It's just if we can read it, understand that behavior, and we read and learn to understand behavior through interacting with the animal. That is the primary reason that I train. Because I'm learning about the animal through each interaction. And then I'm delivering positive reinforcers for behaviors I want to see maintain or increase. I made a Facebook post here yesterday I showed a picture of a little goat, a baby goat. It's already learning. It's up and moving. It's been born. It's moving towards things it wants and away from things it doesn't want. So many times I hear people say, like the label, the terrible twos. What does that mean? The terrible twos is usually a time of an animal's period of life where it's learning, it's interacting with the environment, it's learning what things bring desired consequences and what things bring undesired consequences. And it's going to continue to go towards things that bring desired consequences. The animal is learning through interacting in its environment. And a lot of times I'll hear people say, well, I thought the animal would just grow out of it. What does that mean? What is happening is the animal is fine-tuning and practicing and continuing to interact with things that are bringing it desired behavior. Those desired behaviors may not be desired by us. And if they're not, red flags will go up with me when I'm always observing. And if I can't observe with my eyes, I'm listening to behavior with my ears, or I'm feeling behavior happening, interacting with that animal if it's on my body, such as an animal is touching me, and I feel its grip tense, that is behavior. If I have my head turned like this and I feel that grip tense, I'm going to turn to identify reinforcers. Why is the grip tensing? Is it, and then I observe the animal, observe behavior. Body language is behavior, and see what the animal's looking at, number one. Hey, Joe, just getting some text from you guys. Observe what the animal is looking at, because when the animal is looking at something and if it's tensing up, I am reading behavior. What do the ear placement look like? Is the mouth open? Is its chest starting to breathe heavier? So whatever the animal's looking at could be a potential positive reinforcer, or it could be an aversive, something the animal does not. Aversives are always things the animal does not like, and wants to move away from. Several things we do, such as vet visits, restraint, those are things that have to happen for the animal. What I will do is try to teach the animal to voluntarily give me these behaviors, such as stepping on a scale, allowing a stethoscope to go to the chest, allowing an unfamiliar person to interact with that animal, taking temperatures, drawing blood, going into a crate, being harnessed. These are all things that we teach animals to do. So with that being said, let me take a look at what you guys are saying. Then I'm going to show you some pictures and videos of some training that I do and why I do what I do. Christy Darling, who is in level 2 and I believe the Parrot Project. I just listened to the Parrot Project. To the podcast. Christy's talking about the podcast that we offer through our level 1 and level 2 memberships. To the podcast on antecedents, how to change if a behavior I'm not there to observe and when to catch the antecedent. When I get home from work, the house goes nuts. Dogs bark, birds scream, hard to reestablish calm. Christy, okay, several things are happening here, all right? So you hear me talk about in the podcast and in the memberships, DISC, the 4 main factors of reinforcer effectiveness, DISC. Those are 4 things, and I'm constantly running through all of them, and usually all at the same time. D stands for deprivation. So, Christy, your animals have been deprived of you being in their environment for the whole work period, okay? So you can expect they're excited to see you. Some things that can help you in situations like that, if you don't want the behavior of the dogs jumping, the dogs barking, the birds screaming, what I do is train for that in situations prior to coming home. So, for example, numerous people, minus myself, are off work for the weekend. If I know I have this situation that happens when I come home from work and I've been gone for a period of time, what I will do is, while I am home, planning for these periods of time, is what do you want the animals to do instead? So, for example, we have trained Rocky, instead of screaming for our attention, ring a bell. Okay, so we're using differential reinforcement to train that. Differential reinforcement involves extinction and reinforcement of one or numerous other behaviors. So you have the undesired behavior here, which let's say it's excessive barking. You have the desired behavior here, say it's going to your station and sitting and watching you. Reinforce the behavior of the dog sitting and stationing while extinguishing the dog barking. Extinguishing means ignoring. You start reinforcing this behavior of sitting and stationing while extinguishing this behavior, and the undesired behavior has a history of bringing reinforcement or it wouldn't exist, right? So we must have reinforced this barking at some point, or the dogs would not continue to do it. So what we're going to do is extinguish, take the reinforcer, which is attention for the undesired behavior, and now give it for the desired behavior, the replacement behavior, the behavior of the dog sitting and stationing. And you're going to see that start to go, and it'll go easily like this. We were just talking about this in a Q&A this past week in either our memberships or projects. I can't remember, but what you'll this is the easy part, is to get it to switch. The hard part is to get it right here and keep it balanced. And that's what I always focus on. So I want the behavior of jumping and barking to decrease, and the replacement behavior of going to your station and sitting to increase. So what I'm going to do on the weekends when I'm home is I'm going to do several repetitions of short repetitions of go to your station and sit and deliver the reinforcer. And then then you can put that on cue. A verbal cue, a visual cue. A lot of my cues are visual, where I'll just point. When I want an animal to fly to me, my cue is this. When I want an animal to fly away from me, I open it up. And those are my visual cues. Visual cues are important, especially when you're working with an animal that cannot hear. Verbal cues are important, especially when you're working with an animal that cannot hear. Verbal cues are important too, and I will use them a lot when I have an animal facing away from me that cannot see me. Then I'll use visual cues. If the animal is looking at me, if the animal is facing away from me, I will use verbal cues. If the animal is looking at me, I usually use visual cues. So does that make sense, Christy? So while you're home on the weekends, teach your animals what you want them to do instead. So when tomorrow at 5 o'clock comes, you walk in the door, 5:15, you walk in the door, birds are screaming, dogs are barking. You could do a couple different approaches here. I would just ignore. That's one of the parts of differential reinforcement. Ignore the undesired behavior and wait for the desired behavior to happen. The concern with having the desired behavior happening, dogs barking, and then you put it on cue, go to your station, is the undesired behavior is already happening. If you wait for the undesired behavior to happen and then put it on cue, your dog may think it needs to give the undesired behavior first for you to cue it to go do the desired behavior. So what I'll try to do is walk in the door, boom, cue the dogs and the birds to do what you want them to do instead. That will earn them reinforcement. Ignore the undesired behavior. When the desired behavior happens, bridge, reinforce. Make sense? So if the animal can see, hear, or smell you, or feel you, you are training it, whether you realize it or not. Training is communication. Animals learn through communication. So we're all training our animals, whether we realize it or not. The key question is, what are we training? Okay. Take a look at what you guys are saying, and let me move into a couple of photos. All right. So this had happened this week. A veterinarian had asked me to put behaviors on cue. A lot of what I train is vet prep behaviors or husbandry behaviors, grooming, self-help behaviors, because those behaviors have to happen all the time. I'm consistently training these behaviors. So I had a vet ask me, I like to take stress out of animal environments. That's the primary reason why I got into what I do. And I do this with numerous species of animals. So what you see here is a snapshot from a screenshot from a live stream I was doing in level 2. The vet had asked me, will you please teach this baboon to open its mouth on cue? I was in the primary stages of teaching this behavior. And so what I did was rearrange the environment and to a situation where I knew the baboon was going to yawn. Then I captured it, bridged and reinforced. And I used numerous different things in those training sessions to get this behavior to start happening. So I was just got to be, they say training is an art and a science. It is science, definitely science, using applied behavior analysis. The art comes through application, application and experience. Okay, the more I train, the more experience I get. The more species I train, the more experience I get. The tougher cases I get, I'm always learning something new, and I'm always using the science of behavior to help me, I don't want to say perfect, but become better. Okay. Yes, Jen says you have to be intuitive too. You have to understand, understand what you are seeing. Do you understand what you're seeing? And a lot of times when I first start working with a particular species, I'm like, I don't know what this means. I don't know what these behaviors mean. I don't know what that means. I don't know what, like with Oliver the baboon, when I'm training him, I notice, I mean, his ears are tiny and I can see the small tufts of fur move. So I'm paying attention. When are those small tufts of fur moving? And what does that mean? Am I pushing this animal past its comfort level? And a lot of times in the beginning, if I don't understand the species, I just sit back and observe and I watch. What does it go to? What does it move away from? When is it vocalizing? Is it vocalizing when somebody walks in the room, when somebody walks away from the room, when somebody's walking towards the animal with food, when someone's pulling something from the enclosure? So I learn through observation, and then the next thing I do is start identifying potential positive reinforcers, because I never ask for a behavior if I cannot deliver a positive reinforcer for it. If I want that behavior to maintain or increase, I need to identify positive reinforcers. And so many times I will see people ask a behavior and not deliver a positive reinforcer. And that's when my head will start to twitch. Hey, Sam, I see Samantha Sarin on here. Love the art and science convo. Yes. So Samantha is a board certified behavior analyst as well. I mean, she's a board certified behavior analyst. I am not. So with this baboon, what I started doing was identifying positive reinforcers. And a lot of times I'll just, if I'm lucky, I can use food as a positive reinforcer. But I'll tell you what, when I first started interacting with this baboon, I did not want to interact with him. I was asked to train him. I did not want to interact with him and describe what that looks like. I didn't understand what I was seeing from him. He scared me. I don't want to say he confused me, because once I started training him, I became less and less confused. And those of you that are in level 2, seen the series of live streams I've done in the past week, and it was one of the most amazing animal experiences I have ever had. And that was all within this past week with this baboon. Our relation, because I'm training him, our relationship is going like this really fast. And it's pretty cool to observe. I can't wait to get in and train him now because I'm starting to understand him through interacting, delivering positive reinforcers. And like I said, if I'm lucky, I can have food. I can use food as a reinforcer. When I can use food as a reinforcer, that's usually easier for me to get behaviors. But a lot of times, food is not the reinforcer. You'll see an animal so stressed that it will not eat. So stressed that it will not defecate in your presence. So stressed it will not urinate in your presence. So stressed it will not drink in your presence. I've worked with several different animals like that. Those are the ones I want to empower the most, to show that you do have choice, control, and complexities in your environment. And if you do not, I will incorporate them. And that's when you see animals just really start to want to engage. This baboon, I started working with him with food reinforcers. By the end of my 3 training sessions this past week in level 2, I have seen his reinforcers change. And his reinforcers, I can now add to the list of Cheerios, bananas, he'll eat broccoli from me, green beans. Now, proximity to me has been added. Interaction with me has been added. Engaging with me through training has become a positive reinforcer. And I'm beginning to understand him. I know what the small moves of that ear tufts mean now. So I was asked, Olivia says, Olivia is Sam's dog that she just adopted. That was Olivia at the shelter and why they had to place her with a foster. She was basically failing to thrive. And that's so common in shelters because you usually have volunteers interacting, which volunteers are great, but their approaches are different. And there's usually high stress and high anxiety in shelters, and usually limited choices due to safety, which is understandable. I work with several different shelters. We have numerous shelters in the Parrot Project, and I believe in our level 1 and level 2, we work with parrot and dog shelters. So a lot of times, where do I want to go with this? When working with shelters, you're working in small spaces. You take those animals to large spaces. That could be a reinforcer or that could be an aversive. Too much space too fast can overstimulate an animal or be very fearful for an animal. So a lot of times we have to shape larger and larger spaces. Or you're working with a very fearful animal, you want space. You want as much space as that animal wants to get between you and that animal. And then you start shaping closer proximities. So with this baboon, I was asked to teach it to open its mouth on cue for a dental exam from the veterinarian. So I've got it. I've got the opening mouth on cue, and this was the beginning shaping. I just started bridging and reinforcing for opening his mouth. And once I start shaping, opening his mouth this far, once I start getting that behavior, I don't want to go back to reinforcing, opening this mouth this far, because then you could be confusing the animal. Is it this far or this far? Which one is earning reinforcement? And you'll start to see both behaviors, both of these starting to happen. Is that what you want? So shaping is differential reinforcement. Once I get this behavior, then I'm not going to go back to this. I'm going to start shaping, opening mouth larger and larger. So now I have the baboon opening his mouth like the character on the Reach with a flip top head, the reach toothbrush, where he opens his mouth all the way, and all you see is all these big, bad, beautiful teeth. Now I'm in the process of shaping duration. Boom. And that's when your schedules of reinforcement start coming in, which we are covering right now in our podcast in level 1 and level 2. Continuous schedule reinforcement. Then we'll move to intermittent schedule reinforcement. There's several different types of intermittent schedules of reinforcement, but it's when you start using intermittent schedules of reinforcement to create duration. I want you to, so now I'm at the point, the baboon is showing all the teeth. I'll bridge and reinforce. Now I need, when I go in Tuesday, I need to keep your mouth open like this. This is where it's going to get exciting for me, because I always love a challenge, because I learn from my challenges. So that's what's getting ready to happen next. Okay. Thanks, Pat. There's Dr. Pat Anderson. She's in level 2. She says such beautiful work with this baboon. I'm glad you watched the replays, Pat. And it's created such a strong relationship with this baboon and I. And now that I have this strong relationship with this baboon, I'm more focused on his behaviors. I'm more focused on his surroundings. How are people interacting with him? I want this baboon to be empowered, because I now love him. I respect all animals, but that respect, I can't help it, but it just grows and grows and grows the more you train that animal, because you're developing, creating a relationship with that animal. I don't want to see this animal stressed. I don't want to see anybody intentionally or unintentionally inducing stress. So either way, I now need to train the people, which is very common. I had somebody recently say, I want to get into animal training, but I don't want to train the people. And I was just like, ooh, okay, then you might want to think about going in this very few select areas of animal training, because most animal training is you are training people. Sam says, Laura, how successfully do the animals you train generalize the behaviors they learn? For example, with the baboon, is he able to exhibit the same behavior right away for the vet? Not there yet, Sam. When prompted by the vet, or do you need to be present and transfer that stimulus control to the vet? Yes, I do. So I did text the vet this week, and I shot her this photo and said, he's now opening his mouth on cue, and her response was awesome! Exclamation point, excellent. But I can take too big of steps in my shaping plan. I'm not ready for the vet yet, because I need to shape duration, and I'm going to get this, I'll get this behavior on cue, well practiced, open mouth for, let's say, a minute. And then what I'll do is slowly bring in somebody else. I'm going to shape it. So I will ask, say I ask one of the zookeepers, will you walk into the room while I'm asking this baboon to open his mouth on cue? And then I'm going to ask her to come closer and closer to me. And then I'm going to ask another keeper. I'll ask a male keeper, will you come over here and stand by my side as I get this baboon to open its mouth on cue? My reinforcers may change. And one of the reinforcers I'm seeing that's very effective when I'm working with this baboon is my attention. What is attention? Eye contact. Something verbally coming out of my mouth. What I started doing last week was, that's so good. Be careful. But I'm doing this to see how he responds. This could be an aversive. He may not understand what that's so good means. But as I continually pair this with other reinforcers, my that's so good is going to become a conditioned reinforcer, and I'll see if I can use that as an additional positive reinforcer. I know that works very well for some of my animals that are trained here by me very regularly here at the Animal Behavior Center. I have animals here that will work just to hear how good they are. And I don't have to deliver food. All I have, like Rocky, I just say, that is so beautiful. And he'll continue to sing. Sam says, thank you. That is what I suspected. We have to do the same thing with kids when transferring to parents. It almost never just generalizes without additional training. Yeah. So what I'll do once I get this behavior very fluent and happening with 99% every time I ask it, it does it. My reinforcers are going to start changing. And they could be changing in what reinforcer I'm delivering or the amount of the reinforcer I'm delivering. And then I don't want anybody asking this baboon to open its mouth on cue, because they don't know that I'm going like this to get it to open its mouth on cue. What if they ask to open a mouth on cue and they don't deliver a desired reinforcer at that time? That can positively punish the behaviors I'm asking. So what I do is I'll ask behaviors, I'll get behaviors well trained, and then I'll say, Emily, can you help me train this behavior? Can you get this behavior, ask this behavior 5 times throughout the next 2 days until I get back here? And then I'm going to watch her and make sure she's doing it effectively. And then I'll call the vet. Once I have different people in with me, then I'll call the vet and say, ready for a mouth inspection? Or I'll say, next time you're out, will you just stand with me? I'll show you what I'm doing. And we'll mock a vet exam. Okay. And then when it's time for the actual vet exam, and I've done this with other zoo veterinarians, please make sure I am there. And I will ask these behaviors and make sure, because those reinforcers delivered for the time the vet is standing next to me is likely to be very different than when it's just me interacting with this baboon. When it's just me training the baboon, I may be able to get the behavior for 1 Cheerio. When it's the vet next to me, I may be offering banana baby food, frozen peanut butter, who knows, things of higher value. Make sense? Okay. Here's something else I trained this week. This is Molly, the ring-tailed lemur that was here for training, 4 years ago, and she stayed with us 8 or 9 months. She walked up and gave me a behavior that I trained her 4 years ago. And I have not trained her much since she has been here. She's back at the zoo, and what you're looking at, thanks, Daphne. What you're looking at, what do you see in this photo? Tell me what you see. And I'm going to ask you, be specific. This is what we do in our memberships. Be specific. People will say, the animal isn't doing anything. Oh, yes, it is. The animal is always doing something, unless it's no longer breathing. And we don't want that to happen. So a lot of times people will say, Rico, our umbrella cockatoo, he isn't doing anything. He's just perching there. I'm like, oh, he's doing something. You definitely want to pay attention to what he's doing. Tell me what he's doing. Nothing. Yes, he is. How many feet does he have on a perch? 1 or 2? And they'll say 2. Thanks, Adrian. They'll say 2. And I was like, okay, so he's perching with 2 feet on the perch. Okay. What is his position of his mouth? It's open slightly. What does he do when you walk from side to side? Nothing. Yes, he is. He's standing still with 2 feet on his perch with his mouth slightly open. What are his eyes doing? They're following me. Is his head moving? No. Okay. So this is what the animal's doing. Perching, 2 feet. Head is not moving. Beak is slightly open. Eyes are following me when I move from side to side. That, my dear, you're getting ready to get lunged at. He is definitely doing something, and you want to get a clear read on that behavior and make sure that doesn't happen again. So that's a clear case of you need to understand what you're looking at. Okay. Okay. So I'm reading through your comments. Adrian says, front feet on your leg, eye contact. Yes. Okay. She is asking you for a behavior. What next? Sandy says, looking at you for a cue. Yes, this is like a start button. She is ready, asking for training. Hey, Deb. Yes, Deb's got it. Is she targeting? Oh, almost got it, Deb, what I was looking for. Definitely giving me eye contact, okay? She's giving me a behavior I trained her years ago, and that is targeting her front feet to my knee. This may not be extremely obvious, but what is she doing? She's standing on back two legs, and I've trained her to target her 2 feet to my knee, because when she is targeting her 2 front feet to my knee, I have control over her. Control is not a 4-letter word. We all have control or try to take control over our environment for our survival, for our safety, for the protection of our kids, for the protection of our animals. I need my animals under my control when I say that, because front door may be open, inclement weather may be moving in. I need control over you, and I do that through prior training experience to keep you safe. So what I'm doing with Molly in this particular instance is having her target her front 2 feet to my knee, because if I move to the right, she's going to target her front 2 feet to my knee again. Because if I have her in an encounter or in an educational program and I lose control of the audience, say kids start screaming and jumping up and running around, I'm going to make eye contact. I'm going to I'm going to target that parent's eyes to mine and say, get control of your child, because I'm getting ready to lose control of this environment. This is a way for me to keep control over Molly. So if Molly is doing a demonstration on, I don't know, how far lemurs can jump, and I start losing control of my environment by kids start jumping up, I can ask Molly, touch your hands to my knee. And that way she will follow me wherever I go. And if an environment gets out of control over here, you're going to see me move to where I can get control over my environment. And if I target her hands to my knee, she knows to continually follow me and target her hands to my knee. All right. Let me pull up another one. Let me see. I don't know if I can. I've never done this before. I want to show you guys some videos. Share screen. Hang on. Bear with me. Which sharing screen do I want? Let me show you this one. This is a giraffe. I'm target training, okay? Will somebody get ready to tell me if you can see this video? Because I haven't done this before. Share screen, right there. Will you tell me if you can see the giraffe? Can you guys see this? If not, I'll post the video afterwards, because it's not showing up on my screen. Will somebody tell me if you can see this? I know there's like a 10-second delay. No. Darn it. Darn it. Darn it. Okay, well, what I'll do is maybe I have a separate live stream where I show these videos, okay? So this is a video. I'm beginning teaching a giraffe. I need it to go to certain areas when I ask it to. All right, so I'm beginning stages of teaching a nose target, because if I ask it to turn and touch its nose to here, that's what I'm doing in this video. I'll do a separate live stream. Maybe I'll have how about a watch party? Maybe I do that. How about right after Coffee with the Critters, I'm going to show you this in a watch party. Let's start a watch party. Give me 2 minutes when we're done, because I want to show you how I start getting an animal to know to start taking a couple steps. And this is a 15-foot tall animal, so just a little bit bigger than me, to move from point A to point B. I have 3 videos. I have one of a giraffe, one of a cockatoo, and one of a dog. just to show you. Maybe I show you all three. Let's do a watch party as soon as we're done. Yeah, great idea for a watch party. You know what we should do is have cocktails with the critters on Sunday nights where I can show, we'll have watch parties. Maybe I start doing that. That sounds like fun. Watch parties are a lot of fun. So something else that happened this week, I can show videos in here. I just don't know how to do it because this platform has revamped and I haven't had time to figure out how in the hell to use it. Okay, so doesn't matter the animal. I had a zookeeper come up to me this week while I was in the aviary. I visit this little dude a couple times a week. And I love this little guy because he follows me whenever he sees me walking throughout the zoo. So I'm like, is he following me or is he following people? So I watch when different zookeepers walk by, and he doesn't fly to the windows of the aviary. He flies to the windows of the aviary. Pat, he flies to the windows of the aviary when I walk by. So then I started experimenting. I walk by with a hood up so he can't see me, and he doesn't fly to the windows of the aviary. But then when I put my hood down, I'll be like, hey, you, I see you. What are you doing? I see him to the side of the window, and he does these. This is a Rosella, not named Rosella. Anyways, the zookeeper comes in and she's like, hey, is there anything you need from me? Did you want to check out my exhibits and make sure I can do any better? Which I positively reinforced the hell out of her asking me that. And I just told her, thank you for asking, because that shows you care and you want all the information you can to do better with the animals in your exhibit. So training people. So she had to walk into the aviary and talk to me. And I was sitting here training this little dude. And she goes, I don't understand birds. I'm afraid of them. And I was like, you don't need to be afraid of them. And I said, you're afraid of them because you don't understand them. Let me show you. And this is her hand, not mine. And I said, and I don't want to just say, feed them, because she was just like, oh, people are afraid of those little beaks, and people are afraid of different form of locomotion with a beak that can bite you. I get it. Everybody watched Alfred Hitchcock's Birds. So I showed her first. Let me show you what this looks like. Let me show you how to read behavior. And so I broke off a little tiny piece of food, and I said, now, don't necessarily watch what I'm feeding. Watch what his behavior looks like. Is he leaning away from me? Is he leaning towards me? Is he leaning towards me to my food's right here? I want your beak looking, or you looking right here, not right here. Because if you're looking right here, you're not interested in what I have right here. You may be beginning to defend yourself, and I don't know what defend yourself looks like. I'm going to start understanding what defend yourself looks like, especially if I make mistakes. And I make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. I make sure I learn from them and I don't repeat them. And if I do repeat it twice, if I repeat a mistake a third time, I'm like, oh, hold the door. Stop the press. I'm done. I'm going to back up. Usually I'm recording myself and I'll sit there. I remember when Sam, my blind Amazon, totally didn't see this coming. And I was feeding him and he lunged at me and I was so heartbroken. It's hard not to be, because you're trying to do the best you can for the animal in your care. He lunged at me and I totally didn't see it coming, but I had the video rolling and I sat there and watched that video probably 30 times. And I'm like, I still didn't see it coming. I still didn't see it. We're even watching this video. So I start watching distant antecedents. Okay. And that's when I started noticing behavior change. I was like, boom, there it was. There's a cue. I was pushing this animal too far past its comfort level. And I didn't recognize it before, maybe because I didn't understand it. So then if I make a mistake 3 times, I stop and then sit back and figure out a different approach. Because if this lunging is starting to happen, it's happened 3 times now, now it's being reinforced. I don't want that behavior reinforced. Make sense? Sam says, cocktails with the critters. Hey, that kind of gives me a break. Um, Will there be a replay? Have an appointment? Oh, I'm not sure, Beth. I think on the watch parties, something's different. Like the videos may be there for you to watch, but the conversation happening will not. Because I can, and you'll see me in the watch party. I'm going to stop the video and I'm going to rewind it. You can't hear me talking, but I'll be sitting there typing and we're all typing. And then I'm going to show you mistakes and I'm going to keep rewinding it and show us, did you see that? Did you see that? That's what you need to be watching for. So what was really cool is I did see clear difference between me feeding this bird and her feeding this bird. And I said, let's take a different approach. Let's be very clear. You are new to this bird because you're doing behaviors as close to the same as the way I am. You're somebody new. You're something new in the environment. So me feeding the bird is a totally different behavior than you feeding the bird. So I gave her steps to take. And I said, did you see that? Did you see him slightly back up? That's a sign I'm not comfortable. You want to pay attention to signs of I'm not comfortable in an animal because it may not be a big deal getting bit by her, but it is a big deal getting bit by him. Regardless, I don't want to put an animal in any position to feel it has to bite me, because usually if it's biting, it's because there's lack of space for the animal to retreat to. And I just don't want that behavior. The animal is feeling like it has to defend itself. If I'm using positive reinforcement training, I do not want to put an animal into a situation where it feels it has to defend itself. So I had different pictures of dogs and lemurs to show you, and then a parrot, but they were coming up sideways, so I just took them out. Julie says, what time will the watch party begin? Give me 2 minutes after this live stream is over. 10:05. Let's say 10:05. So I am in the beginning stages. We're doing all kinds of harness training here. I'm getting ready to harness train a KV, harness train birds for future education programs. We're harness training lemurs. What else am I harness training at this point? I don't know. But a lot of times harness training, especially if you're working with prey animal, you're putting hands over heads. Hands over a prey animal's head could be an aversive, but you can shape it to not be, all right? Putting hands behind animals' backs. Carol says, all the years I've been watching you train, I still need your direction. Carol, get in the projects or the memberships. That's where I give you full attention. And everybody that's in here that's in one of the projects or the memberships knows that. Harness train the world, Pat says. Absolutely. So, and sometimes I get negative feedback from people who don't understand or not familiar with the work that I do on the Animal Behavior Center's Facebook page when they see me trying to add a harness on an animal. I need that harness is there for safety. It's not there for restraint. It's for safety in case my environment, the animal's environment, gets out of my control. Okay, so this is what we're doing in the Parrot Project. One of the several things we're training in the Parrot Project now. We're doing scale training, recall training, harness training, getting ready to do towel training. We're doing nail trimming. Okay, we're doing all kinds of things. So, okay, with that being said, it's 10 o'clock. And I'm going to just give you a quick recap. If you're interested in the services that we have, so this live stream was just a broad spectrum of some of the information I give. You can join our level 1 membership program for people with companion animals. Level 2 is more for people in the field, thinking of getting in the field, wanting to get in the field, or wanting to get better with their approaches and behavior. So Sam's on our live stream. Samantha Sarin, board certified behavior analyst, was a guest in our level 2 a couple of weeks ago on digging deeper into NRMs, no reward markers. We're all probably using them and don't realize it. So she will be a continued, hopefully, upcoming guest. She's also in level 2. She's agreed to be an upcoming guest on Coffee with Critters. We also have our projects. A lot of times people combine a level 1 or level 2 membership with a project, and our projects are species specific. So we have the Deaf Dog Project, Parrot Project, Pig Project, and Snow Project. The Parrot Project is extremely popular. If you want to join me next week in Chicago, I'll be giving a 4-hour workshop as part of Dr. Jason Crean's zoo biology and genetics college course at St. Xavier University. You can register for that workshop at that link right there. It's also on our Facebook page. We also have in 2 weeks, I will be in Connecticut giving a presentation at the Featherfest. So you'll want to watch for cocktails with the critters on probably that weekend. Anything else? Oh, of course. We have our zoo workshop coming up June 13th and 14th. I always tell people, you want to fine tune your training in your application. Interact with animals, train animals you are not familiar with. And in this zoo workshop, I am going to make sure you're not familiar with the animals you're training, because that is how we learn. And I will be standing right next to you, guiding you, asking you questions, pointing out reinforcers, fine-tuning your technique and understanding of applied animal behavior. This is a 2-day workshop. There was 5 working spots. I think there's now 2 left. There was 5 auditing spots, which means you can observe but not train the animals. There was 5. I don't know how many are left. This is quickly going to be sold out. It's not yet because I haven't really advertised it, because I know it will get sold out. Anything else? Join me in 5 minutes for a watch party, and I will show you those 3 photos. Give me a minute to get them uploaded. Right here on the Animal Behavior Center's Facebook page. Give me a minute to get those up on the screen and join me for a watch party. If you're interested in more of what we do, take a look at our website, theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. If you have questions, you can always email me, Laura, at theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. And with that, I say thank you, and I'll see you in a couple minutes on the watch party.